So we're going to jump back into the testimony of Jarnail Singh to the Post Office Horizon IT inquiry and about his role briefly at the Royal Mail prior to separation into Post Office Limited and the reduction of numbers, where he identifies the fact that he was understaffed and actually says that some mistakes were made in the sense that he should have asked more questions about Horizon, which he says he didn't know a lot about, and shouldn't have taken many things at face value. But he's keen to press home the point that he wasn't the entire process. He was only responsible for the things he was, and that investigators and senior managers had their own responsibilities. So whilst he does accept that he feels the hurt and pain, in his words, of sub-postmasters, and that he's sorry that this has happened, he does seem to point the finger towards other areas of the post office for why things happened, and that he simply followed the processes that were in place before him. Let's jump into the inquiry.
In paragraph 7, that can come down, of your witness statement, you say that when you transferred over to the post office in 2012, you were the only in-house criminal lawyer within the criminal law team. Is that right?
That's right.
What was the reason for the post office reducing the number of in-house criminal lawyers?
I think you need to ask somebody senior. I have no idea why they did that. All they did was separated the businesses, and I think the business plan was to have one senior lawyer, one a senior criminal lawyer, one commercial lawyer to head those teams, and have, my understanding was to oversee or manage the work done by a private firm who attended the work out to the private firms. I think that was...
So this, to be fair to him, maybe where the confusion with the senior lawyer comment was made before. He wasn't the senior lawyer, he was one of 8 during the time with the Royal Mail, but on separation, Post Office clearly decided to reduce numbers and contract out the rest of the work for where he was then the senior lawyer. So it seems like a bit of a promotion, although it may just be a reduction in numbers at his grade, which kind of ends up being a default promotion, if you like.
Was their model, and I fitted in with the the criminal law aspect of it, or the prosecution side of it.
And so the model was to outsource the work to a firm, is that right? But retain one lawyer in-house?
Yes.
From 2012 onwards, from the separation of the business onwards, did you manage any other criminal lawyers within the post office?
No, because there are no other criminal lawyers there.
It was just you?
Yes, me.
From that time onwards, from separation onwards, was the criminal law team sufficiently staffed? I.e. by you, and you alone?
You mean this is Post Office Limited now, 1st of April 12 onwards? No.
It wasn't sufficiently
staffed.
In what respect wasn't it sufficiently staffed?
Well, firstly, I had no assistants. I had no, at CLT, had the criminal law team, prior to it, I had a secretary who basically did all the typing for me, because I'm not very good at IT. I had a desktop, but I dictated everything to her. She put everything together. Then you had the legal executives putting the bundles together for the jury, for the advance information for the magistrates' court. I didn't have any of that. So I basically said, look, I can't do the job you're trying to tell me to do. So a lot of the work, basically all the work, literally from the beginning to the end of the case, went to Cartwright King. So that was the only way it worked.
So essentially, not only did they reduce the lawyer numbers, which is a bit strange when you've got a spike in cases and allegations being made, but even if we look beyond that, I suspect there is some honesty here where he's saying, actually, I didn't have enough staff to do the role, because also the support staff were cut as well. So it was literally on the post office side, he was the criminal lawyer that was there. Not only did he not have additional assistants to help him, but it seems like the post office's answer to that was, rather than hire any more people, to contract out that work now to Cartwright King. Presumably that was financially more beneficial for the post office.
So the only thing I did was basically manage them and did the admin or the advice sought by the seniors within the post office.
Thank you. And did you complain about this?
Well, I don't know what you mean by complaint. I mean,
Raise a grumble, express your dissatisfaction, express annoyance, or other cognate expression.
Well, it was an open planned office. We had the head of legal, which was, I've forgotten his name now, Hugh Flemington, I think it was, and the director of, or counsel, was Susan Crichton. She was a lovely lady, and Hugh, we got on really well. As and when I needed them to discuss matters, I did. I said, well, look, I can't deal with it the way it is, the way I want to do it, because the whole point was it was a challenge, and I was been always up for challenges. And I think they understood, or they didn't understand. I don't know what they did or didn't do about it now, but certainly I did the best I could, and I was glad that you had Cartwright King with the senior expertise to work with. That's the sort of thing I was looking for, basically, and I just fitted in with their team, and that's how I sort of worked out for.
So that's handing over quite a bit of control to Cartwright King there, isn't it? Which is leaving them open to influences by them, presumably, because they are going to have to take on, if not the senior role in the case, they're going to have to undertake the majority of the work due to the low staff numbers in the Post Office criminal law team.
For me, and I was able to have a direct communication with them. And I think every time I phoned, there was always somebody on the other side to discuss matters, to help me with some of the advices internally, which the Post Office needed or wanted.
You had a long career as a criminal lawyer within the Royal Mail Group and then the Post Office Limited.
Yes.
Given that long career within the criminal law team until you left the Post Office in 2015, it's right, isn't it, that you presided over a number of prosecutions which have subsequently been found by the Court of Appeal to involve miscarriages of justice. That's right, isn't it?
That's right, yes.
Including a number where the Court of Appeal has found that the Post Office didn't actually have any proof that loss had occurred to the organisation.
Yes.
In your witness statement, would you agree that you accept no personal responsibility for any of the actions or omissions related to the specific cases that you're asked about?
How do you mean? What do you mean by that?
You don't accept any personal responsibility for any mistakes made in relation to the cases that we asked you about in your witness statement?
Well, obviously, I'm very grieved.
That's a different issue.
And I'm embarrassed and sorry. I mean, I think maybe we ought to start by me apologising directly to the subpostmasters. Obviously, I do, feel their pain and hurt, and I think feel the same. I mean, I've never met any of them. My basically employment, a job entailed, or my role entailed, the paperwork I received, I assessed it in line with the law, the evidence, the public interest, and whether it was appropriate for charges to go before the courts. So in that respect, I didn't do the complete job. I didn't do the investigations. I didn't know anything about the Horizon system in the sense of how it operated, so we actually had a witness statement to actually explain it, and then we had the barristers in turn to approve it, and then it went before the judge to deal with the enforcement side of things if he needed. So in that respect, of course, I feel very upset and aggrieved that it gone so far, because the whole idea of becoming a lawyer wasn't to do any wrong, and I didn't want to be here today. I wanted to enjoy a long legal career within the Post Office or whoever, and now to carry on doing the next stage of my life. And certainly in that respect, of course, I take responsibility for what I've done. And sometimes you wake up, sometimes you can't sleep, and say, well, I wish I'd done more. Why did I accept the fact that Horizon was robust when it wasn't? But this has been going on since about year 2000, when it first came into place. And after that, And I think I more or less started doing more of the sub-postmaster work purely because I think when Debbie Staples went off and started doing the Royal Mail work and started working from home. So you rely on other people to tell you that the system is working. The investigation officers, again, should have been the ones who should have got the evidence from the operators and say, no, we need more evidence, but then maybe it's our fault as lawyers and say, no, where's your proof? Prove where the shortfall is. But I think we were sort of more was relying on what we can only do with what been given, that is the paperwork, and we thought that was appropriate. And we worked as a sort of team together, and we formulated. I think I told you about the template, which we followed it religiously. Well, I certainly did religiously, so that we don't overlook anything. On top of it, all our work was independently assessed and marked, if you like, by the independent barristers.
So I think, if we kind of sum up there, he's essentially saying that really there were organisational failings rather than personal failings. I think to sum up what he's saying is like, I stayed in my lane as a lawyer and, trusted what other people were doing. He's not been afraid to say there that he didn't think the investigations were sufficient or reflect on the fact that actually his actions as the lawyer for the post office have contributed to a series of miscarriages of justice in cases that he handled himself. But he's clearly identifying their kind of organisational failures. I was following post office policy. They reduced our numbers. I didn't have enough staff. It was contracted out to Cartwright King. I didn't do the investigations. And at the end of the day, the courts decided on the cases based on the evidence provided. He does have some reflection on his own actions as a lawyer and said, maybe I should have done more, maybe I should have asked more evidence. Because one of the key things in these cases is actually the losses weren't ever found. It's akin to, where there's a crime where someone's killed, and in those cases, it's very hard to prove, although not impossible, without a body, because that's the main evidence. In the case of theft, it's very similar in the sense of if you can't find the money, it's usually very hard to prove that there's been a theft at all.